Hey, everybody, Spad here with your midweek coaching prompt. And this week we are going to talk about the Buddha and some of the things that he got right that maybe some Christians should pay attention to. And so if you're familiar with the Buddha, he had these two concepts, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. And the Four Noble Truths are this. Number one, life has suffering. It is suffering. There is suffering, and wake up to that. And I do think our Catholic brothers and sisters understand the power of suffering, the redemptive process of going through suffering. I would say that in many cases, our Protestant brothers and sisters sometimes just say, walk in victory and get over it. So they may not be a full appreciation for the role of suffering in our lives. And the Buddha realized that suffering is a part of life. So wake up to that fact. What he says next in the second of the Four Noble Truths is interesting. He says most of your suffering is correlated back to your cravings and your desires. And this is interesting because the Ignatians talk about having disordered affections. So affections, desires, cravings, where the things that we want, they're never going to fill us up. And when we come short of them, in reaching whatever those cravings are, we feel like we're missing out. And when we do attain them, we realize they're empty. And so he is saying that a lot of our suffering has to do with our cravings. And, it's interesting because one of the things that Jesus says, if you really want to live, you got to die. So he's not talking about your soul dying or your spirit dying. He's talking about your ego, your desires. Let those things die and then just move into full awareness of your belovedness and union with him. And then the suffering will start to dissipate. And what the Buddha then goes on to say, it's actually quite hopeful. He said on the third noble truth is there is a possible way for getting rid of these desires. And so there's this hope that I think is quite healthy. And then the fourth thing that the Buddha says is the pathway is the Eightfold Path. And I tell you, it's, check me on this. If you read the Eightfold Path, look it up, and you look at the Sermon on the Mount, and you look at a lot of the different teachings in the New Testament from Jesus and from Paul, there's a lot of overlap between this Eightfold Path around right thinking, right speech, right action, right heart, intention. And just a lot of this, I think, is just a solid framework to be thinking about life. And in fact, I think even the Stoics do a pretty good job with this. The Stoics are super clear-minded and sober-minded. But what's happening, I think, both with the Buddha and with the Stoics is they're missing the power of the Holy Spirit. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is in us. And so instead of having to rely, if you're a Stoic, on brute force and this sober-mindedness, not that those things can be bad, or to rely as a Buddhist with just incredible discipline, not that that's bad, but to take those human characteristics of clear-mindedness and of discipline and let the Holy Spirit undergird all of that, and trusting not in our own selves and our own capability, but this Spirit that Jesus gave us, that he said, this Spirit will lead us into all truth, and that Spirit will set us free so that we won't have to suffer with our sufferings. We can live in joy amidst our suffering. And so here's the whole point, I think, of this video, is this: learn to pray. Learn to pray. Learn to move your mind and your heart in union with the still small voice that emanates from this Christ within us. And the Spirit will give us comfort to help us with our present sufferings, and will give us counsel to help us think through how to actually activate and live out this Eightfold Path. And so what happens is we end up with our own effort undergirded through the goodness and kindness and love and wisdom of God to start to live a life of freedom that can then move us into a life of compassion and of love. And that God would be glorified in it, not just our good efforts. So learn to pray, tap into this inheritance of the Holy Spirit. That's it for now. Be loved, go love.